Yo, thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's do it. Today I'm going to talk about the supplements that I use, and I'll tell you which ones I think you should and probably shouldn't use, and what's worth the money and what isn't. So I'm going to keep this shit pretty short and sweet and to the point. But first, disclaimers. Number one, I have zero knowledge of the actual biological mechanisms by which supplements work or are supposed to work. I'm not qualified in biomedical science or cellular or molecular biology or anything that would make me an authority on this subject whatsoever. All I've done is Google shit, find the great research of other people, apply some critical thinking to it, and repackaged it into a digestible video for you. So I'm not going to pretend to understand the inner workings of everything. I'm actually just going to tell you if shit works or if it doesn't. However, I will leave links in the description for further reading if you want to get deep into it. Number two, I have a supplement sponsor, which means I am fortunate enough to get all of my supplements for free. However, for most people, they obviously have to consider a cost to benefit ratio for all these supplements they may potentially take, and therefore that is somewhat largely dependent on your actual income and how much money you've got. And so I'll try and tell you which supplements I would buy anyway and which are just like pro game if you got some money in the bank and shit. Number three, let's not forget the actual definition of the word supplement. You know, these things that you are taking or consuming should be in order to supplement and complement your training, diet, and let's call it recovery regimen. And although it's kind of nonsense, people throw around stupid percentages and say shit like abs are made 60% in the kitchen and crazy shit like that. I will engage in this nonsense for the sake of demonstration. If I had to put a percentage on the importance of supplements, I would say it is less than 5% of the overall picture, with your training, your diet, and your sleep / rest and recovery making up the remaining 95%. So with that in mind, nothing is absolutely essential. Okay, so let's start off with the absolute fundamentals, and these are probably the ones that, well, definitely the ones that I would be buying anyway if I didn't get all my shit for free, mate. Not showing off. I know I've mentioned that I get my shit for free twice. I'm a sick shredded YouTuber. Anyway, so these are a multivitamin, omega 3/6/ maybe 9 capsule, creatine monohydrate, and whey protein. So we'll take these one by one. Multivits, by all accounts, this is just an insurance policy against any deficiencies. However, as with any good insurance policies, the cost of having it far outweighs the risk of needing it and not having it. Deficiencies, especially in dieters, aren't uncommon and can be pretty horrific. This one and a couple of the others I'll mention are more about general health than trying to get huge and shredded, but you can't really expect to perform and recover well if you don't have that base level of health first. Omega 3 and 6, there are a range of purported benefits, but the main effect seems to be a reduction in triglycerides. Not really sure what they are, but they sound bad. They can also help to reduce blood pressure and inflammation, so that is nice too. And as with the multivit, they are more of a dietary supplement, one that's focused on your overall health and well-being rather than specifically relating to your athletic performance. Whey protein, the protein source with the highest biological value. I'm going to skip over this one because everyone pretty much knows that you need the protein to get the gains, mate, and whey protein is one of the best and, more importantly, most convenient sources. And obviously any whey protein that you do consume should just be factored into your overall protein intake along with your regular diet. Creatine monohydrate, it has been shown time and time again to have a positive effect on power output, which translates into better lifts for you and me. There are a few types of creatine, but monohydrate is just as effective as any and does tend to be the cheapest, so I would argue therefore the best option. You can do a loading phase, but probably don't need to. 5 grams a day will be enough for most people, maybe a little bit more if you're absolutely massive and doing loads of lifting, up to about 10 grams a day. It's also not a time dependent dose, so you can take it at any point throughout the day. Now, key point to mention is that if you are super on top of your diet and you're 100% sure that you get everything you need from it, then you could ditch 3 out of 4 of those and just keep the creatine. The thing is, not many people are actually that on top of it, and therefore I would say that most people would benefit from a health perspective from the multivit and the fish oils or the omega 3 and 6s, and from a convenience perspective from the whey. Now, those multivits, etc., should not be looked at as a replacement or in substitute of a proper diet. You can't just go, oh, fuck, I've had my multivit, I don't need to eat my broccoli. That isn't how it works, but I do think they are worthwhile insurance policies and worthwhile top-ups. Okay, after the fundamentals, let's move on to supplementary supplementary supplements. So these are the ones that I would throw in there if I had a little bit of spare cash lying around at the end of the month. I was doing all right for myself, or if I really wanted to make sure I was absolutely making the most out of my supplement regimen. Citrulline malate hasn't been studied anywhere near as much as creatine, but the studies that have been done show some positive effects that would cause me to class this as the second quote-unquote performance enhancer, be careful with that term, on this list. It's been shown to decrease fatigue both for aerobic and anaerobic exercise, whilst increasing arginine and nitric oxide levels in the blood, which translates into vasodilation, which translates into ruthless pumps, which might also translate into improved performance. L-citrulline and citrulline malate will be dosed a little differently, so check your packet and dose appropriately. Beta-alanine, or beta as you may pronounce it, again probably under the performance enhancer category of supplement. It's been shown to increase muscular endurance, so that means if you're doing a very high rep set, I would say around the 15 reps or above mark, or if you happen to be one of the 0.1% of lifters that actually does any cardio, this could help with anything in the 60 to 240 second range. So if you're doing any kind of intervals or anything of that nature, it might be worth taking. About 3 grams per day is usually enough, and it doesn't have to be at any particular time of the day again. CBD. So obviously there is a shitload of hype behind this, and that's because it's shown a lot of positive effects when studies have been done on animals. However, there aren't really many human studies as yet to go off. Some have shown reduction in seizures for people with epilepsy, but if you don't have epilepsy, that ain't exactly much use to you, is it? So others have shown reductions in anxiety and even pain, but there's literally only a handful of studies, so that is far from conclusive. I am taking CBD pretty much based off the million anecdotal reports that you hear from people, and that's not exactly scientific because that could just be a mass placebo effect due to all that hype. But as I said, I get it for free and everything thus far looks positive, so I'm going to be taking it. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't buy it really, just because there is a lack of science on the matter. So weigh it up, judge for yourself. Okay, next up we're on to the now and agains, and these are things that I have lying around and utilize them on an occasional basis. It's certainly not things that I have regularly or every day, but just now and again, hence the name. In this category, I would put turmeric, a complete greens supplement, and a stimulant-free pre-workout. The turmeric contains curcumin, which is an anti-inflammatory. The complete greens is just a micronutrient powerhouse, so similar to the multivit. And the stim-free pre-workout contains some of the other things I mentioned, like L-citrulline, as well as arginine and nitrates aimed at enhancing your in-gym pump. Alright, so I'm going to finish up with all the stuff that I don't take. And when I say all the stuff I don't take, what I actually mean is all the stuff I don't take that people might take, not actually every single thing that I don't take, because that would take forever. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of stuff that I don't consume. I don't consume the dehydrated tusk of a narwhal or jojoba oil. I'm sure that's in L'Oreal, or, you know, echinacea. There's lots of stuff that I don't go near, but I'm just gonna do like the common ones that you might. So let's do it. The first thing I won't be consuming is anything containing caffeine. Now, if you watched my video a couple of months ago where I documented myself quitting caffeine, then you'll know the background. And if you do, then I apologize for this 1 minute segue I'm gonna do just to catch everyone else up to speed, because I do think it's fucking important and it was honestly life changing for me, and so I just wanna share it and hope that it might help other people, whatever. Anyway, so I was experiencing some adverse side effects of what I thought was overconsumption of caffeine. I quit caffeine, turned out it was right, they went away, and then a few other areas of my life drastically improved. So one of the main things is my sleep. Both the duration and quality of my sleep just is infinitely better now. Even when I was consuming caffeine earlier, or I was having a coffee or Monster or whatever it was at like midday, or having a strict cut-off point of 1 or 2 p.m, I thought that wasn't affecting my sleep, and it was only when I went 0 and then very little caffeine that I realised it was. Aside from that, my energy levels are way more steady, and steady energy levels are just infinitely better to work with, because you're not having to try and time a gym session for when you're up and time your laptop work or anything like that. And so anything with caffeine. If you want more info, I'll elaborate in the comments if you want to ask me questions, or go back and watch that video. I might do some kind of update on this soon in a podcast or something, because I just want to go further on it, because I just can't stress enough how I literally think that quitting caffeine saved my life potentially, or made it a lot better. Anyway, so that's it for that. Next thing, glutamine is quite a popular one, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. Basically, it's not going to help with building muscle, at least, unless you have some kind of muscle wasting condition such as AIDS. But most people don't have AIDS, I expect, that are watching this. If you do, I mean, glutamine might help with the muscle wasting thing, but if you don't, there ain't that much point in taking it. It can help with, I think, your digestive or intestinal health, but usually it is sold and packaged as something that's going to help with your actual lifting and muscle building, you know, and for that reason it's not worth it. Branched chain amino acids, or commonly referred to as BCAAs. So I used to take these, but looking at it a bit more deeply, it's not really worth it if you get sufficient protein from your regular diet, and I definitely do. Now, if that's the case for you, you consume enough protein over the course of the day and you're not spending long periods fasting, then it's probably not going to be worth the money for you to buy BCAAs. Now, obviously, worth the money is again relative, because a bag of BCAAs might be nothing to you, right? And if that's the case, then congratulations, you're doing well. But I expect for most of us, it's probably an unnecessary expense. Now, if you do fast for prolonged periods, or your protein intake elsewhere isn't sufficient, then you may benefit from BCAAs. But I would also say, if your protein intake isn't sufficient, there are probably also cheaper ways to make it sufficient before going to BCAAs. But then again, they might just be convenient. Anyway, I'm not taking them. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring another video. Squarespace is the platform that makes making a website proper easy, mate, even if you're like not too switched on like me. So whatever you need a website for, you will find a template that fits. And if you're unsure which to use, you can install multiple templates and then switch between them. And you can personalize everything and even import content directly from your Twitter or Instagram. Every template automatically adapts to the device it's viewed on, so you can make sure it looks sick on a phone, PC or tablet. If you want an online store, they have templates optimized for commerce, and you are able to list an unlimited number of products. So for all of your website needs, you can shoot over to squarespace.com and start your free trial, and then squarespace.com/Joe Delaney to get 10% off your first order when you're ready to get going. Cheers. See you later. Ta-ra. Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Joe Delaney is my hero.